Another amazing trading week in the daily market breakdown videos. Let's get into this week's Forex forecast. Starting things off with the US dollar index, the past week the banks got rid of 446 long contracts and they also added 1,320 short contracts. Now looking at the daily chart here, we had our daily demand. I pointed this out last week and it was looking like this and it was looking like it could hold, but honestly it broke right through. And I'm kind of thinking now that this was actually just a massive fake out. What I actually originally thought was that the overall move in the dollar was going to be down and that this move was the overall fake out. But to me, right now, it kind of looks like we were all faked out to the downside and we are pushing up now. So we haven't quite broke this high yet, which would be a pretty bullish sign, in my opinion, looking on the daily chart here. And if you look on a weekly chart, you can clearly see we do have a ton of profit margin to the upside in the weekly chart, but we are coming into some sort of selling here. So we could definitely see the dollar turn around. Now, we're going to have to monitor things on the lower time frames. If you look here on the 4-hour chart, you can clearly see we had a beautiful looking 4-hour uptrend. We had, demand zones being respected along the way up. We had supply zones being taken out. That is how we identify a trend, using supply and demand zones. And then all of a sudden we had that big push down like this, where we not only broke below the trend line and broke demand as well. And that left us with a demand zone down below. I thought we would actually kind of react off the zone. We didn't quite get there. Now we are into this 4-hour supply located at 104. Now, in my opinion, we're either obviously going to react off the supply to the downside or break it. And in my opinion, that's a good sign on what's going to happen in the dollar. So if we break this supply like that, we break the high here, we will then have the ability to draw an upward trend line here connected from most likely down here like this. And we'll have a very, very strong looking 4-hour uptrend, just like we did here. And at that point, we would say, okay, it looks like the dollar is going to continue to go up. And then we could continue to look for long. So you can still look for longs in the DXY, and just in any of the dollar pairs. But remember, since with the supply and control, we definitely could see it spike down. But I got to be honest with you guys, the supply is very deeply tested. At least 75% of the way in. It's looking weak. It's not the best supply zone ever anyways. So like I said, if we break that supply, break the high, uptrend continued here on the 4-hour chart, all signs will be pointing to the upside on the DXY. If not, we're going to react to the downside, and that'll be for a different story. But for now, just wanted to monitor this 4-hour supply zone here on the DXY. Forecast for the Euro USD. The past week, the banks got rid of 8,849 longs, and they also added 3,232 short positions. Now, top-down perspective here on the weekly chart, I recently drew this little weekly drop-based rally demand zone here. It's not quite demand based on how I track all of my zones, but it is definitely a drop-based rally buying area. And we've already seen the reaction off of it a little bit. We haven't seen that full move from here yet, obviously, but there is some sort of weekly demand zone in control. Just wanted to point that out, a little bit of a top-down perspective here on the euro. But if you look on the daily chart here, we clearly lost momentum here. We had a beautiful looking daily uptrend, not the best daily uptrend, but it was a daily uptrend. We recently broke below that and we lost trend on the daily chart. We actually broke demand as well. So I'll keep it really simple. On the DXY here, on the euro here, if you think we're going to continue to go down, we do not quite have a 4-hour downtrend yet. We still need to remove this low. Then we will have a 4-hour downtrend. But if you want to jump the gun here and continue to trade short, if you think the euro is going to continue to go down, then we could be looking for shorts off of that supply zone at 1.08 or the one a little bit above at 1.09. We could see the move off of that supply zone as well. So really any two of these supply zones, kind of much prefer the one at the extreme, to be honest, but any one of these two supply zones could be good. You could use confirmation entries, whatever you'd like to use. That is definitely an aggressive entry though, considering we don't really have a downtrend. Also, if you think we're going to go up like that weekly drop-based rally I pointed out, if you think that this is the low, then what we could be looking for is actually for this zone or this zone to be removed. So your confirmation coming off that weekly demand would be something like this, where we remove this demand, and if we supply, and if we have decent 4-hour demand there, that would be your 4-hour confirmation entry like that. So that's what I would be doing, looking for your swing trading longs as we come off the lows of that weekly demand zone. Basically just looking for this 4-hour confirmation with this zone removed. But like I said, you could also be looking for potential shorts if you think we're going to go down. I'll be honest, it's definitely a tricky time right now. If we go back to the weekly chart here on the euro, it's definitely not super easy to predict where price is going to be going. I kind of have to say with my gut, based on the momentum being up, with demand being in control, I gotta say that we're going to probably react to the upside off the zone. The problem with it is that this zone is a reaction off of this zone from back here, so it's all kind of used up. So it's one of those times where we actually could see the spike below to some sort of fresh zone like that. I know this is a long-term perspective all the way out to next year, but I'm just trying to point out to you guys the level of thinking that I apply to my analysis in order to get the best results. So yes, we aren't to demand, but it's not the best demand based on this. Now, if this was, a fresh looking demand zone, like this one down here where we had a great move away, it's fresh, it hasn't been tested yet, it would be a totally different story. I'd be basically very, very eager to buy at a demand zone like that. That's why I'm trying to trading with caution here in the euro at that weekly demand zone. So confirmation, like I said, on the 4-hour chart is going to be key. So on the euro, I'd be focusing on the 2 4-hour supply zones. On to the forecast for gold. The past week, the banks added 9,714 long contracts, and they also got rid of 11,612 short contracts. Now, to me, well, you guys might be thinking, oh wow, gold, such a strong push up. And I would agree, it's definitely been a good week in gold for sure. I'm still trying to be patient, waiting for the pullback down to 1870. For you guys know, I've been talking about this zone from all the way back here, back in March. So definitely testing my patience right now, but that's fine. There's plenty of other opportunities in the markets. If you look at a daily chart right now, we are actually contacting this daily area this daily downward trend line. This is a very obvious trend line to me. So it could be a time where we actually spike above. We kind of already have, but we could actually close above this trend line, or who knows, we could actually rally down. This trend line could be used to push price down to that 1870 area and then rally up. So just wanted to point out that yes, gold's looking strong, but we still have that overall daily downtrend. And until we can break this daily downtrend cleanly, leaving us with demand, getting in long on swing trading timeframes is definitely a little bit risky. Now, the ultimate swing trading setup would be just like I pointed out here, where we have daily demand that removes the trend line, and we get a pull back down to daily demand. We can look for longs inside of that demand zone. That is like the dream setup here for us swing traders. Now, in the meantime, how could we actually be trading this one? Well, to me, gold is looking very, very strong. Now, on the 1-hour chart, I actually already pointed out this 1-hour area of demand. That was a zone that I pointed out to the diamond members in the daily market breakdown video. Now, gold obviously pushed right down below, but we had a nice, little 3-to-1 move from that zone right there. And if you want access to my daily market breakdown videos throughout the week, so you can get my analysis daily, because a lot of times zones like this happen throughout the week, and I can't point them all out during the weekly Forex forecast. So join the Diamond membership. I also have video lessons A to Z and awesome Sunday Zoom sessions that are about an hour long, where you can get your questions in. It's basically a one-on-one at this point, so on the Sundays. So check it out. Links in the description down below. We'll be happy to see all serious traders join the Diamond membership. So as far as gold goes now, we already had the long trade, but on the 1-hour chart, we broke below the trend line. So it's not looking too strong anymore. If you think that daily downward trend line is going to hold, this is your supply confirmation here at 1948. So we could look for a trade-off at that zone, but a little bit risky. So extra confirmation might be best in that supply. But at the end of the day, I mean, look at the 4-hour chart. It's just looking nothing but strong right now. So, if we do get a pullback down to this demand level down here, I'm going to get the prices at about 1924, we could, see a move off that zone. So if you think that downward trend line is going to break and we're not going to push down to 1870, this is really the only 4-hour demand zone that I see that we could get a potential move off of. But confirmation would be better inside of that 4-hour demand zone. So remember, like I said, that daily downward trend line is in control right now. So it's really all a test if we're going to break it or if we're going to continue to go down. And by monitoring the 1-hour supply, we'll be able to tell if we're going to continue up or to go down. So right now, I'd be monitoring this 1-hour supply and keeping my eye out on the 4-hour demand that I pointed out at 1924. On to the forecast for the USDJPY. The past week, the banks got rid of 740 long contracts, and they also got rid of 3,890 shorts. Now, kind of want to do a daily approach first, then we'll go to the weekly, because I wanted to point out this very, very beautiful looking daily uptrend. This is just a dream situation for us trend traders. You guys know me. I love trading with the trend. I only really trade with the trend. Very rarely do I not anymore. So Yes, we do have some very, very poor quality demand and control. I still like this demand lower at 143.750. I still think we could see a move like that on the USD yen, especially since we have kind of lost momentum here. It's more visible in the lower time frames, but we have lost momentum. Now, I still think, like I said, this zone at 143.750 is still a good area to look for your confirmation long trades on like a 1 hour chart or a 4 hour chart. But the problem with that is if you look at a weekly chart, my highest time frame that I use for these videos, we're clearly into contact with some weekly supply. Now, the supply is pretty good. It definitely is a very large area. Now, we could definitely see a move off the supply, whether it's going to be, you know, all the way back to like 129 again or not, the long-term move, who knows? But we clearly have seen some wicks off of the supply zone as we've come into contact with it. So it's definitely something to be trading with caution with. So with that being said, how do we actually trade this one? Well, look, with the daily demand and the daily uptrend, we could definitely be looking for longs. We have demand down here. It's decent at 144.986. We could see a move off of that 1 hour demand zone like that. And on the 4 hour chart, let's say we don't pull back to that 1 hour demand. On the 4 hour chart, this was the supply zone that was responsible for removing this very nice looking 4 hour uptrend. So in order for the uptrend to continue, obviously we need to not only get this supply removed and the high to be broken so that we can connect our trend line down here and we'll have an uptrend again. That will be the ultimate buy signal in my opinion. That could be evidence that that weekly supply above is not going to hold, because this is essentially a 4 hour supply zone confirmation coming off of weekly supply. So this essentially is a 4 hour confirmation setup right here on USDJPY. The reason I'm not super eager to trade that confirmation setup, well, it's because it's counter trend on the weekly and the daily chart. It's not counter trend on the weekly, it is sideways, but it is counter trend on the daily chart, so it's not the highest odds situation. But at the end of the day, this is your 4 hour confirmation, so we could definitely see a move off this 4 hour supply zone. If you're not sure about it, what you could go do is go down to a 15-minute time frame and look for confirmation on your day trading time frames, and kind of just use this 4 hour supply as your day trading higher time frame. So really just all focus around this 4 hour supply zone. It is really going to be the test. If we break it, I think the weekly supply could be tested much, much deeper and we can continue to go up. If we hold, then at that point, I think that the weekly supply, you know, is actually going to hold. Like I said, this weekly supply could hold and that could be pushed down to like 143, like I said. So going to have to monitor that 4 hour supply zone, like I said, to see if we're going to react off of it or not. And it can be used for your confirmation shorts on day trading timeframes, or a 4 hour supply zone in itself coming off of that weekly supply. GBPUSD forecast. The past week, the banks got rid of 918 longs and they also added 9,788 shorts. Real quick, what pairs are you guys looking to trade this week? I'm interested to know. Let me know in the comments down below. I will respond to every single comment, and I really, really appreciate you guys letting me know. And as far as the pound goes now, we are into daily demand, but don't be fooled. This daily demand, it's a good little rally-based rally demand zone. It was almost tested a few times. Finally came in for a good test, reacted off of it nicely, actually. I pointed this one out last week. Nice reaction off of it. Coming in for a second test, and don't be fooled. Yeah, we are in demand. We could see a move. But if you look at a weekly chart, this is why it's always important to use multiple time frame analysis. We actually have better demand that's down below at 1.25. So yes, we are into that daily demand. That's why we've seen the move up. But I think if we just wait wait for that little push down to 1.25, then we'll see that bigger move. So I think holding off on the pound, waiting for swing trades to take place at this weekly demand zone is going to be your best bet. So with that being said, there is still profit margin down to 1.25. So sorry, to get more specific, 1.25087. So that being said, how do we trade this one now? Well, we already got a reaction off my supply zone up there. In the meantime, we have new supply on the 4 hour chart at 1.267, so we could see a move off that supply zone. If you're not sure about it, as always, you could just go down and look for day trading confirmation inside that supply zone as well. And that's pretty much, you know, all I'm seeing here in the pound. We are into some sort of 1 hour demand, but it's not the best. It is 1 hour confirmation coming off of daily demand, so we could see a move off of it, but really not looking great as I'm looking at it right now. So at the end of the day, we have still downward profit down to the weekly demand zone. So if we get pullbacks up to supply zones, we could look for those day trading shorts. USDCAD, my home country here in Canada. The past week, the banks added 10,225 longs, and they also added 6,534 short positions. We did so far have a nice reaction off of daily supply. Not sure if I pointed it out in last week's forecast, but I still like the purple zone above at 1.37 371 for a nice move down off that zone. So that's really what I'm looking for here on the USD CAD. And now that we've already reacted off the supply and we're coming in for a second test, I personally am thinking we are going to break this supply zone here on the USD CAD. If you look at a 4-hour chart, we had a pretty good looking 4-hour uptrend here. We actually have supply above. I forgot to draw this one. We do have supply above we're actually reacting off of right now. So it's really a test. We could kind of we have supply and demand. We could kind of ping pong between these areas for a bit. We could also see the move off the supply and come down to demand. So really two options here. If you think the USD CAD is going to go up, we could simply be looking for shorts off the supply. We've already got a reaction off of it to the downside. So you could be on your day trading timeframes looking for shorts to trade down to 1.35, or we could wait for this demand zone to be hit and look for longs in this demand to the upside. Or we could wait for this 4-hour supply to be removed because we might not pull all the way back down to there. We might get something like this. You get a little swing trade short in here, and then we break this supply, leaving us with 4-hour demand, and we can hop on a long trade right there. So those are really the options I'm seeing here in the USD CAD. But at the end of the day, 4-hour supply, 4-hour demand, both fresh zones. So two zones that are high probability, in my opinion, with the daily supply being in control. Essentially, this is a higher odds situation. But like I said, the reaction of the daily supply hasn't been great. So I'm not really too confident in it. That's why I'm saying the extra confirmation here could be best. So really just wanted to monitor this 4-hour supply and the 4-hour demand to see what takes place on the USD CAD. Forecast for the Aussie US dollar. The past week, the banks got rid of 10,658 longs, and they also got rid of 4,529 shorts. A little bit of a tricky situation here in the Aussie US dollar. I kind of want to do a top-down approach here. I don't think I've done it the past couple weeks, but we have weekly demand, this purple zone right now. It is in control. But remember, it's been tested once. We've seen a beautiful reaction off of it once, and we are coming back in for that second test now. Obviously, it's gone in deeper this time. So yes, we could still see the move off the zone. Is definitely a tricky situation. And what makes it so tricky? Well, if you look at a daily chart, we just have such a clean looking daily downtrend that, yes, with the weekly demand and control, it's still a counter trend long trade, right? So yes, we could see the move like this. That could be the move we are seeing. And yeah, we could look for longs in this leg up, but with the trend being down, that's definitely risky. That's why confirmation is going to be probably your best friend in a lot of these situations, because we actually have a situation right now where, we've just seen zones being blown through a lot this past week. It's definitely been a very, very tricky week trading. I'll just be straight up with you guys. So with that being said, yes, this is essentially a 4-hour confirmation trade coming off of the overall weekly demand. But like I said, that weekly demand is already tested, so this makes the zone definitely lower odds. If the zone is normally, let's say a 9 out of 10, the fact that the weekly is tested makes it basically like a 7 out of 10. So it's like a -2 point. I don't really have an actual system. I'm kind of just going off here, but just kind of pointing out to you guys that these factors come into play when deciding on how high quality and how high probability a zone is. That's why I'm saying if you want to look for longs in this 4-hour demand at 0.642, you might want to look for that extra day trading confirmation. So you might actually want to treat this like a potential day trade setup where you're on your 5-minute or 15-minute chart looking for demand zones or however you like to trade to the long side. So map out this 4-hour demand at 0.642 and potentially use it as your higher time frame. And that's pretty much all I'm seeing here on the Aussie US dollar. If we fail to hold on that 4-hour demand zone, I think it's safe to say that the daily downtrend is actually going to continue and we might not be getting that retracement back up to daily supply like that. So that's what I'd be waiting for on the Aussie US dollar, just monitoring that 4-hour demand zone. USD Swiss forecast. The past week, the banks got rid of 1,295 longs, and they also got rid of 1,947 short positions. Top-down perspective here, weekly chart. Overall, weekly downtrend, pulling back into weekly supply. We definitely could see this thing roll over to the downside. We actually caught a pretty nice confirmation trade coming off this 4-hour area of supply right here. We caught a little 15-minute confirmation trade like that, as you can see on the chart right now in the daily market breakdown video. And obviously looking at the 4-hour chart now, we actually ended up blowing through that overall 4-hour supply zone. So How do we trade this one now? Well, it's a little bit tricky. With the weekly supply and control, we could definitely see this thing go down. Now, we've already lost on this 4-hour supply zone, unfortunately. So for the confirmation now, we pretty much want to see this demand removed. And even better, if we could get both of these demand zones removed, that would be a really, really good sign. And then any pullback to any 4-hour supply like that, that would be your trade as we come off of that weekly supply zone. So that's what I'm waiting for here on the USD Swiss. As far as trading it long goes, I really don't think it's the time to be getting in long. If you want to get in long, any one of these zones I pointed out, you're going to want to look for day trading confirmation only. It just might not be the time to be getting in long with the overall weekly and the overall daily downtrend. So definitely a little bit of a tricky time right now. We just kind of want to wait for that 4-hour confirmation again as we come off of these supply zones here on the USD Swiss. But as I kind of look at it here, back to the weekly chart, yes, we have the overall downtrend, momentum to the downside into supply, but it's kind of overextended. So it could be one of those times where we actually spike through the supply and just get something, some random price action like that. So definitely want to be trading with caution and using confirmation when we can. All right, on to crude oil forecast. The past week, the banks got rid of 3,285 long positions, and they also got rid of 9,819 short positions. Now, beautiful, perfect looking daily uptrend here in oil. Absolutely love it. Unfortunately, could not get that pullback down to demand at 76,308 on the daily chart. We definitely could still get the move down to demand and get something like this long term. Obviously, that's a few months out ahead, so make sure to subscribe so you get the forecast if we do pull back down to that demand zone so we know what to do. So that's the bigger move I could see happening on oil. I don't want to say it, I see that happening, but it is definitely possible. Now, we could also pull back down to this demand at 82,371 like that. So if you're a swing trader, that's the daily demand zone that I would be looking at. But don't get too excited about longs just yet. For those of you who've been following me for a while, I've been pointing out this weekly supply, talking about the profit margin from demand to supply. And at 87.25 is where the supply essentially begins. So that's where we could see that move down. So we could see the move from weekly supply down to the weekly demand and then like that. So don't get too excited about oil yet. I am bullish long-term on oil. I think this is the bigger move we are going to see. Now, it's almost impossible to predict if we're going to go straight up or pull back first or what's going to happen. So we just need to be aware that weekly supply is about to be coming in control. So we need to be trading long with caution. So how do we trade this one long right now? It's definitely a little tricky. On the 1 hour chart here, we have 1 hour demand at 84.37. We kind of just want to be trading the pullbacks to the long side, right? With the daily uptrend, as long as we don't contact that weekly supply zone, we really just want to be buying pullbacks to demand zones. So we have that 1 hour demand at 84.37. If you go down to a 4 hour chart, a little bit below at 84.08, we have 4 hour demand. Could see moves off of that zone. Even lower here at 82.21, we have a demand zone as well. So really just want to be mapping out any demand zones that we can see on crude oil. As long as I said, as long as we don't hit that, as long as we don't hit 87.25, we just want to be continuing to buy pullbacks down to demand on oil. And if you guys want to watch the full length forecast with all the other markets, make sure to subscribe to the channel membership to get access.